Hi and welcome. My name is Sarah Lynn. I'm the head tutor and founder of Bettering Youth, the safe place where your child can build their academic resilience as well as learn the tools to support their mental fortitude. I want to make sure that you're in the right place, so let's help give you a little bit of a background. This is going to be our plan for today. First and foremost, we're going to look at the 3 ingredients in helping your child fall in love with learning, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want, isn't it? Second, we're going to look at how we, as a tutoring company, can help support your family, banish the homework battles, and build confidence. Before we do that, though, let's go on a little bit of a journey. We always have 2 options. We can go through door A, where your child listens, the tutor talks, there's hardly any laughter, there might be hesitation in even attending the sessions, and there likely will be worksheets. Lots and lots of worksheets. But on the flip side, there's door B. Now, door B is about a relationship built on trust. It's about laughter and interest-focused lessons. That means that the child is at the center of how we build our entire learning scheme. And that means that they're engaged and interactive. And I'm sure I don't actually have to ask you this, but maybe take a moment and ask yourself, what is the goal of tutoring? Do you reckon it'll make more sense for you to go through door A? Or perhaps you're pretty curious about door B. If you are, let's keep going. Door B invites us to go on a little bit of a road trip. So we have red lights, yellow lights, and green lights. And yes, this is one of the ways that we help establish just how confident your child may be with a topic. And we're going to do the same thing right here today. So the topic that we are looking on is your child's well-being. We're having a child well-being checkpoint. You have to choose if you're feeling more on the red, the yellow, or the green scale. Let's investigate. The red scale would mean that they usually feel lost, overwhelmed, disengaged, and you may hear a lot of negative self-talk, like, I'm awful at maths, I can't spell, I have such a bad memory. All of that negative self-talk, that's in bucket red. Moving over to our yellow section, there might be a lot of validation that is needed. They may actually ask you to sit with them at the table to do their homework. Otherwise, they feel a little lost. They might be still having tears. There still may be a fear of getting started and ultimately a fear of getting things wrong. Or does your child live in the green bucket where they love the process already? They have no worries or qualms about getting work done, and you really don't ever have to worry about them. They just take full ownership of the learning journey, and they know it's about a long-term process. Take a moment and identify for yourself, is your child more in camp red, camp yellow, or camp green? You've likely said camp red or camp yellow. My hope is that you've caught us by pot yellow. But the truth is, many of the Bettering Youth families have actually found us when they're in the red zone. And that's totally okay, because we focus on building a relationship with your child. It means that we're allowed to bring their parasympathetic system down. Their nervous system is no longer in fight and flight, because we focus on building that connection before we throw them into, well, actually, we don't even throw them before we walk with them through their learning journey. All right, next question. What about the family's well-being? I'd like for you to go through the same process. Are you in camp red, yellow, or green? Do you as a family dread homework time? Is there maybe a lot of yelling, crying, and ultimately does it become a battle? Or do you still need to sit with them and coach them every step of the way, and inwardly you're worried about whether or not you're helping or hindering, and you're thinking to yourself, do they actually have the resilience to go into secondary school, grammar school, into their GCSEs, into their mocks? Do they have the skills? Or are you in the green camp, where you don't have to worry about them doing their homework or revising? Because they love the process so much, they're usually really good at effective revision. Now, let me just make this clear. That does not mean that they sit upstairs in the room for 4 hours telling you that they're revising. No, effective revision is usually much shorter, and we'll get more into that in a moment. And the last checkpoint I want you to do is how to learn. So, does your child understand the process of learning, of acquiring knowledge, of making sure that it goes from their short-term memory to their long-term memory, and then can they retrieve it when they need it? If your child is in the camp red, they don't understand the learning process and they may refuse actual revision. If they are in the yellow camp, and oof, I just noticed a spelling mistake there. It's a very humbling moment that we're all human. Your child will spend hours copying notes, but they still do poorly on the test, or there might be lots of anxiety still, or they're copying down lots of notes, but the results don't match the amount of time that they feel that they've dedicated to the revision. Or again, are they in that green camp where they know how to plan, they know how to schedule revision, they use various tools like active recall and interleaving, they know what they mean, and you know that they are getting the grades that are reflecting the effort that they're putting in. So now that you've gone through and done a little bit of self-assessment, if you are in the red or yellow camp, I want to tell you it's okay. You're not alone. In fact, you're in good company. But I want you to think a little bit more. And maybe feel free to even message me or share it with us. What do you think it would mean to get more green lights? What do you think it would feel like if you felt confident that your child understood the learning process? What would it feel like for the family if there was no more hesitation or frustration or crying around homework time? How do you think your child would feel when they confidently came up to you and explained a process that they may have been stuck on earlier? What would it feel like to go through door B all the time? And lastly, how important is it to you for your child to learn and love the process of learning and become an independent learner? Now that we've established that we are in the right place, I want to dig a little deeper with you. Our sessions will provide you 4 things. More, to be honest, because we're all about going above and beyond, but let's start with these 4 basic ones. We offer both small, interactive group classes and one-to-one personalized tuition. All sessions have some form of well-being coaching attached to them. And number 4, we always offer support beyond the classroom. And this can look different for everybody. Well-being coaching may be helping students preparing for exams to understand performance anxiety and provide them the tools that helps them feel confident so they no longer have the yips, right? Have that Y word, the lack of results to reflect what we both know they're capable of. Well-being coaching can also look like helping students to build resilience. So they're no longer afraid to take chances or try something or even fail a little. Beyond the classroom support also looks different for many families. For some, it could be sticking with our half-termly reports from the tutors. For others, it's about creating a coaching space for their child, especially if they are in year 10 and year 11. We can help provide them extra work, but also give them time outside of our sessions to connect with us using various tools. Ultimately, these 4 things that Bettering Youth provides will always be grounded around tailored, personable, and student-centered teaching that encourage students to fall in love with learning. So now that you know that you're in the right place, And now that you're confident that we offer exactly what you're looking for, I want to give you a little bit more of a view of where we come from and why we are the company that we are today. So walk down memory lane with me. In 2016, I decided I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. I went through a 5-year teaching degree. I taught in various places across Canada, the UK, and South America. And yet there was one moment, it was actually a rainy day. Of course it was. We're in England after all. If you know anything about wet play, or maybe you don't, but wet play can be the cruelest of mistresses, especially if you have a math lesson right after. Wet play typically means that students are stuck inside and all of their bundled up energy stays bundled up. And they don't really get a whole lot of time to move or talk. They're usually encouraged to sit at their desk, play cards, play games, or color. It's usually not enough of an opportunity for their energy to be let out. And so when you come back and you're excited to teach this next math lesson, well, they just don't have the capacity. So instead of having that happen, I broke a little bit of a rule and I stayed with my class. Staying with my class, I thought would be the coolest thing. So I asked another adult, we moved the desks aside and we did yoga. We played games with yoga poses, which means that my class was up. They were moving, the oxygen was flowing through, their brain was getting ready because we were doing processing work, because we were playing games. We were definitely in a good position to head back into our math lesson. And I was so proud and so happy with that moment. And yet, that moment is one of the big reasons as to why I left the classroom. Because that same day, I was pulled into the headmistress's office and she told me, A, that I should not be spending time with my class because that is the lunch staff's responsibility, and B, that I shouldn't be playing yoga games with my students. And for me, I felt like, well, not only do I know that professionally this was the best decision, but it was also the best decision for my students. I'm encouraging them and talking them through what to do when their body feels all jittery and how they can harness that energy in a positive way in a short amount of time so they can bring that brain power to our next lesson. So in 2017, I left the classroom and I started doing a lot of workshops. I spoke to families, I spoke to local authorities, and we really started to build quite a bit of momentum, specifically around student well-being. But in 2017, I realized I didn't have enough information to create what I wanted to. So I went back to class. Yes, exactly that. After my 5-year Bachelor of Education, I went back to class to get certified in cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, and student well-being. And then from there, the rest kind of just grew. We then had Bettering Youth clubs and workshops. Yes, this is our old Bettering Youth logo. This is very sweet. I believe this is around 2018. 2019, just before lockdown. And now we are here, and I've been very pleased to be invited into different workplaces that supports other tutors to integrate mindfulness sessions into their tutoring, into their space for their children, for their students. We were also shortlisted, or I suppose I was also shortlisted last year for the Best Send Tutor of the Year through the National Tutoring Awards, which is an incredible honor. So I hope from here you can see that everything kind of beautifully led us to the company that we are today. And the space that we are in is phenomenal because we have been working online well before the pandemic. Actually, back in 2018, I started online teaching. So in terms of technology, we are very well versed. In times of supporting student well-being, well, we've been doing it from the beginning. So there's nothing that we haven't tried, nothing that we haven't heard of, and we are so honed in on the skills that our students need, and we're always looking for ways to adapt if we need to. So 3 really big things I want you to consider when looking for a tutoring company. The first is connecting with someone who can act as a coach for your child. You want them to feel empowered to tackle difficult topics and for them to learn how to learn. The second thing that I want you to look at when you're exploring all of your tutoring options is, are they a good fit in terms of academics? Do they understand the curriculum? Do they have a grasp on what exactly your child needs, not only to be supported in covering those learning gaps, but also potentially stretching them without overwhelming them and exposing them to curriculum that's far beyond their reach? And the third section that I want you to consider whenever you're looking at a tutoring company is, do they have a therapeutic approach? Our students are complex, and if we are not taking into consideration the entire child, there's going to be missed opportunities for learning. We need to provide them with the skills that they need in order to shift the negative self-talk and to build the very important self-awareness. And so when you put all of those things together, I hope you can see that we, Bettering Youth, is right in the center. We have 4 main pillars, and they actually fit into each of these 3 sections. Through coaching, your child builds resilience. Through tutoring, they can build critical thinking. Through therapy, they're always going to be doing self-awareness and learning about empathy. Those 4 pillars are what allow us to have the Bettering Youth difference. The ability for us to go not only support your child academically within the classroom, but also beyond as well. So what does this mean in real world lingo? It means we have no more mysterious tummy aches. I, as a classroom teacher, would always have students coming up to my desk right before an exam. Miss, I've got such a bad tummy ache. I think I need to go home. Miss, I have a headache. Miss, I don't feel well. It's not that they were physically ill 99.9% of the time. It's that psychologically they didn't have the vocabulary to explain to me that they were feeling anxious, worried, stressed. When we work together, your child will understand the emotional literacy, and it will allow you to fully understand what it is that they're trying to tell you. It will ultimately stop the erratic blowouts. It'll banish the homework struggle. It'll put an end to those very annoying I don't knows. Of course, it reduces the worries, and it will slow the drama. So I hope all of that is helping you to see the real benefit of working with us. But in case you need a little bit more, here's a wonderful quote from one of our case studies. The blend of emotional support and academic guidance was exactly what our needed. It wasn't just about boosting grades, it was about nurturing confidence, emotional resilience, and a love of learning. Sarah Lynn's approach was like a breath of fresh air. It's weird reading this. Felt seen, heard, and understood, which made all the difference in his journey. Now, this could be any student, but this in particular was a student that I worked with for 2 academic years. Initially in year 4, I was working with them as a coach, an emotional well-being coach, to help him with his OCD tendencies, the intrusive thoughts. As we were building not only a rapport and starting to see wonderful progress in managing his anxiety, we started to blend in and expose slowly to maths. And by the end of our 2 years, this child was able to transition to a secondary school very confidently. And at the end, that's all we really want. But I'm going to tell you some really hard truths, because while I'm here to pump you up, I'm also here to give you a little bit of reality. The thing is, Learning is not just about providing children with information. They could Google it, right? You can ask AI, what's the point of working with someone if you're just going to provide them with the information? They also need to build skills to help them flourish in the 21st century. Speaking of AI, how are their critical thinking skills? Online safety? Are they feeling resilient to be able to push through when all of the jobs that we know and love are starting to dwindle? It could be a waste of money if your child is not equally invested in the process. So how do we get them there? Don't worry, we coach you through it. Even our most, even our most disengaged and reluctant students will always find their way back to our lessons because we start with connecting with that child first. So here is our tutor promise to you. We are all experienced, qualified in well-being and in mental health. We all have classroom experience, and we have all been interviewed and vetted by myself, which means I'm not just looking for qualifications, I'm looking for heart. I'm looking for passion, and I'm looking for people who will really, truly care about the child that the student is. We work with families who also value an emphasis on their child's wellness. We always go above and beyond the classroom. That's our motto. That is where we shine. We don't just work at what we are doing within the academics, but how can this connect to the real world? How can this connect to a skill for the 21st century? How can we support that child develop the skills and the mindset needed to bring them beyond traditional academics? One of the ways we can do it is to bring in real world experiences. One of our students was looking at creating their own business. What better way to learn about fractions, decimals, and percentages than to go through an entire series of lessons on building a business? We did costing, pricing, market research. We did planning. We looked at what if you look at this provider in terms of purchasing your supply? What about this provider? Building through what the child is interested in and connecting it to a skill that they can see themselves applying it to in the real world unlocks doors. What about this one? This is a great way in showing students how to prioritize. This is a skill that many of our students really struggle with, and they're not often taught them. So we went through this matrix. We have high importance, needs revision, high importance, less revision, low importance, but still needs revision, low importance, less revision. Most of them, of course, are going to fit up at the top. And they might switch throughout the year, maybe even the week, depending on if there's a test coming up or not. But just going through the process of identifying priorities and then looking at where that fits into an actual schedule allows that child to feel empowered. It allows them to see the bigger picture, and it allows them to take ownership and responsibility over when they're going to do revision. And if they identify that they want to do 4 to 6 hours a week, hypothetically, can it actually fit into their schedule? And where? If they miss Wednesday, they're not going to get that target that they want or they think they need. So this is where that critical thinking comes to play. And of course, how can we make it so it's engaging? This is one of my favorite projects, and we did it with a spooky theme. So we're always looking to find a technology that we can use to really boost our sessions. Now, whether your tutor relies on Zoom or Teams or pencil spaces or anything else that we encourage our tutors to make use of, you will always have an interactive whiteboard where your child and the tutor can be writing at the same time, which is phenomenal because it's better than if I'm sitting beside your child, because I can be writing on one side and they could be writing on another and I can see it in real time. We can impose pictures that we can write on as well as documents. Think about GCSE. If we're doing Pride and Prejudice and I have the script in front of me, I might want to start making notes, and I don't want to have to scroll and all of my notes disappear, don't make sense anymore. These tools allow us to annotate right on the documents, which is absolutely fantastic. And my students' absolute favorite part of this as well is that we can bring in videos, which means we never have to move outside of your child's classroom space. Better yet, your child's classroom space is always accessible, which brings a whole new layer of value to their sessions. Not only do they get to experience this time one-on-one with their tutor where they're really engaged, but what happens when they log off? What happens when we're no longer there? Many of our parents tell us, oh, he never remembers what he's learned. Well, they used to anyway. They don't anymore. And that's because we're allowing access to these notebooks that are online, that are searchable. So if your child just learned fractions, decimals, and percentages yesterday, and 2 days later they have homework and they forget how to do it, they can go back to their page where they learned this, and all of the material is there. Talk about useful, right? So I've drawn down enough. I'm going to pause for a second and let you take a peek at what our families currently say. What a human moment needing water. Perfect. And if you're interested, there are case studies and other reviews on our website as well. So how can we help you specifically? Well, our tutors can support students from year 3 through to year 11, and we also have some A-level tutors as well. We can help with 11 plus, ISEB, SATS exams, revision courses, and we also have some pretty amazing retreats. We can also do transfer exams and retreats for moving into Key Stage 4. What's better is that if you start with us, like many of our students do in Key Stage 2, you are going to be partnered with an amazing specialist for that year group and that subject. But what happens when they age out of that tutor? You don't have to start the whole process again. You're not left to just go and find and scroll and read more reviews. This process is difficult, and we want to honor your time. So we offer booster sessions in term 3 with the next tutor that we think your child can match up with. And then they can go through with that tutor through all Key Stage 3. And the same thing happens when they move to Key Stage 4. And the really cool thing is, because we have a notebook per se for them, and we have half-term reviews going back and forth between myself and the tutor and the parents, we have almost like a document for your child that follows them through each stage. So there's no stopping and starting. You never need to worry about starting up from zero again in September. Scratch that stress. We're all about keeping things easy. So we have our reports, we have our progress, we have our notes, and they follow your child through each and every stage. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you, but here are some benefits to you. Essentially, we value your child as an individual. We are equipped to support their academic and their well-being journeys. Our tutors are experts in their field. We support your child's journey from start to finish. There's no more starting over with each new phase. We teach 21st century skills, and we make it easy for them to learn and thrive within and beyond. So, what does that feel like? If you have connected to us and this has been an email sent to you after you've already booked a session, I am so incredibly excited for our call later, and I cannot wait to learn more about you and your family. But if you're getting access to this as an open house, then please feel free to send us over a message so we can book in a call. And yeah, essentially what it just said there. Thanks for viewing. Okay, that's it for today. I'm so excited and I cannot wait to continue the conversation with you a little bit later. We'll speak soon. Bye.